play due to his sore back. Scoot Henderson is out but is expected to make his season debut this week. And the newest Blazer acquired from Atlanta on Sunday, Vit Krejci, is expected to make his debut with the Blazers. Jrue Holiday is questionable with personal reasons. Portland looking to snap a 5-game slide. Trade deadline's Thursday. Join me on the Rip City Drive for a full breakdown. Sean Highkin will join me in studio at 4. And Chris Burkhart will be in studio as well. The Utah Jazz have acquired Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies in an 8-player deal. Anthony Simons on his way to Chicago. Celtics sent Ant and a second-round pick to the Bulls in exchange for Nikola Vucevic. And Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit have agreed to a multi-team deal that sends Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley to the Bulls. Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric are heading to Detroit.
Live from the Coors Light Studios, it's time for the Rip City Drive, hosted by the crazy and often irrational Chad Doing. Coors Light, mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill.
How does it feel playing at Levi Stadium? The Bay Area locals are real mad.
Do I need to hit you with a we did not care? Yeah, we're here to play a football game. Where is it? Let's go play.
Seattle, just from the get, right when I got here, it felt like home. And it feels like home, and I'm just so thankful for John and Mike believing in me, and all the players in that locker room for believing in me, and for me to just be able to go out there and do nothing more than my job on every single play. And I think that's a very, very secure feeling as a quarterback.
Best advice Tom Brady ever gives me. I've met Tom a few times, and one of the best things he says, there's no shortcuts to it. There's no shortcuts to putting in the work, and now the proof's in the pudding, and knowing that the shortcuts that that people take or can try to take, it's not worth it. Get the most out of what you put into it, and he's been great at that, and he obviously showed that throughout his career.
A must-win, yeah. I think every time we go out is a must-win game. I mean, it's kind of the attitude that I've always taken in the National Football League.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
Yeah! All right, really looking forward to this show today. We got a lot of different things going on. The network coordinator on the Trailblazers Audio Network, Rich Patterson, the captain, going to join me at 4:20. He'll be in person here at the Pines as we get ready for the Suns and Blazers coming up for a wonderful 8 o'clock tip on NBC. I have a good idea. Why don't we have more 8 o'clock tips? Because that's what we all need in our life. Rich Patterson's going to join me. There's some great stuff coming up with Portland Wrestling. So we're going to dive into some of the old days with Portland Wrestling. The captain, Rich Patterson, will join me at 4:20. I'm also going to be joined by Sean Highkin. He's going to stop by at 5 o'clock for the latest on the Blazers ahead of Thursday's NBA trade deadline. He did tell me that Vit Krejci, the newest member of the team that they acquired from the Hawks for Dwap Reef and a couple of future second-rounders, will more than likely be in action tonight. So we'll get a chance to see the three-point stroke. No Scoot Henderson tonight, but he is trending to play on Friday. There's a home back-to-back against the Grizzlies. We will get the season debut for Scoot this week. And then Jrue Holiday, still unclear on whether or not he's going to participate tonight. He's been dealing with some personal reasons, but he's listed as questionable, so he could be back in the lineup as well. So Sean Highkin going to stop by at 5 o'clock. At 5:20, Brooke Olzendam from the Trailblazers is going to join me again. I had her yesterday, so I get double the greatness of Brooke Olzendam on the show coming up at 5:20. We'll talk about some of the guys, Denny Avdia, of course, and we'll talk about her foundation, Brooke Heart Your Heart. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. The Rip City Radio text line is 88528. And I do want to talk some Super Bowl. In fact, coming up in 20 minutes, you're going to get the breakdown from our NFL insider, Joe DeLeon, on the matchup, on Sam Darnold, and really how Darnold has been able to turn his career around after surviving the Jets. After the New York Jets football Jets tried to ruin his career, his life, and everything about it, he was able to rebound and got rehabilitated in San Francisco by Kyle Shanahan, and now look, he's killing it. Was great in Minnesota. He's been great this year with Seattle, and he's got a chance to win a championship. And as I've said before, this game with the Patriots and the Seahawks, on paper, the Hawks have more pathways to victory with their special teams, with their defense, and, of course, the offense. They just can win the game in a variety of different ways. And they've been terrific throughout the course of the season. Now, I do think the Patriots are going to be game. And what would give me pause as a Seahawks fan is, this coaching staff. The experience that Josh McDaniels has putting a game plan together and calling plays in the playoffs. I mean, how many games has he been a coordinator in the postseason now? Like 40? So his experience and his understanding of big moments, critical. And then Mike Vrabel is just simply one of the best coaches in football. His game management, like he's one of the few guys in the league that's not a complete moron when it comes to managing a game. So many of these quote-unquote geniuses are really bad at managing games, making decisions, handling the clock, knowing when to go for it, understanding the rule book. But Mike Vrabel's on top of all of that. And I know that there were people concerned about the shoulder for Drake May. He is going to play, and he should be okay. I don't think he's going to be limited at all. Now, with the point spread, 4.5, and I'll dive into more on this coming up a little bit later, it's settled in at 4.5. It opened at 5.5, quickly dropped to 4.5. There were some people last week who were concerned about the shoulder with Drake May. It nearly went back up to 5, but it's kind of settled in now, and it looks like it may remain there at 4.5 for the rest of the duration between now and Sunday. And the Super Bowl is unique in so many different ways when it comes to the gambling side, because there's no event in the world that gets this type of play, this type of action, legally. And I'll get into some of the numbers, but the numbers legally that are expected to be wagered on the game are astronomical. Astronomical. It's crazy. So we'll get into Super Bowl, but Brooke Olzendam, Sean Hyken, and the captain, Rich Patterson. We're going to hear from Joe DeLeon. One, his breakdown on Sam Darnold and the Super Bowl, and also his thoughts on Dante Moore. He's a draft analyst, so he scouts all of the players and puts together his profiles. I think for Oregon fans, they should be pretty happy they're going to get a player like Dante Moore back. And more importantly for him, he's got more of an opportunity to continue to work on his game and get better to improve his draft stock, which is really cool. Now, for the trade deadline, I was in cahoots last night communicating with a couple of guys I know who cover the league, who are very well connected. And I asked this guy what he thinks about Giannis. Will he get moved now, or is it going to be in the summer when it's easier to move, bigger contracts, especially when you got multiple teams and multiple players and various assets involved? His response was, God, I think it's 50-50, but I would lean summer. I talked to an agent the other day that said everyone's scared of the Luka backlash, not getting enough in return without opening up big bidding wars and making it a bidding war as big as possible. More people can bid in the summer because everyone will have one extra draft pick to trade when you can get one more out to 2033. But Giannis wants to move now because then his 6-month close to sign extension would start now, and he can sign the start of next year. If he doesn't get moved till summer, he couldn't sign an extension until like January or February of 2027, the 6-month clock. He also went on to say that Giannis is in the same spot as Dame when he left Portland. He doesn't want to go, but he knows that he has to compete. He doesn't want to end up like Dame in Milwaukee and wish he never left. If you're going to go, you got to go to the right spot, or regret will eventually surface. He's going to put his thumb on the scale and get to the Knicks or the Heat. Threaten not to sign extension anywhere else. So he does think that Giannis will get moved. He would lean summertime, but he does think that Giannis is going to wind up somewhere with the Knicks or the Heat. Now, with the Trailblazers, do I think that they're involved in a deal to bring Giannis to town? No, I don't, and I do not expect that to happen. But do I think the Blazers are in a terrific spot and are remaining opportunistic with opportunities that could present themselves between now and Thursday's deadline? 100%. And I really think Joe Cronin, obviously I love the work that he's done thus far as the Trailblazers general manager. He's made some great moves. The Denny Avdia trade is a perfect example. They just brought in Vit Krejci, who is a terrific shooter, better than 42% from three on a cheap deal. And they traded a guy who wasn't going to be able to contribute the rest of the year. Joe Cronin and his staff, and Mike Schmitz, who is a genius, one of the young and up-and-coming executives in all of sports. He's that smart. Their team has done a good job with the roster. But they're in a great spot right now because they have incredible draft capital with their Milwaukee picks. And think about that, they got that draft capital from the Bucks, and they got Dame back in the process. That's not bad. So they're sitting in a great spot where they have draft capital. They've got roster pieces which have value that could be moved. Drew Holiday, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams III. But they're under the luxury tax line. So the Blazers don't have to make a move. There's no pressure to do anything today or before the deadline on Thursday. And I like it when you're operating from a position of power. There's no desperation. You don't have to make a move. You're not looking to unload money to get under the luxury tax line, but you're remaining opportunistic. And the Blazers, while I don't expect them to make a play on Giannis, they might be able to bring in something of great value if they're a part of a larger deal that involves multiple teams. Or maybe there's something else that he has been eyeing. And, of course, keep in mind, like we've seen with the Deni Avdija trade a couple of years ago, a lot of things that Joe is discussing right now might end up being put together during the course of the summertime. So with the Blazers, they've got options, and they can remain patient, and they don't have to take something back if they don't believe they're getting the value that they want in return. I mean, obviously there are some things that are obvious. If you can, move off of Robert Williams and get a healthier backup, at the center position, that'd be great. Getting off the Jeremy Grant contract would be valuable, but they don't have to do it right now. So I like where Joe Cronin and the Trailblazers sit. I'm also excited about the team from the standpoint that they're getting healthier. And we're going to be able to get a better look at what they have. And most importantly, Scoot Henderson's going to come back, and we'll have, roughly 30 games to be able to play. It's a shame for Scoot, who had a great offseason, that he didn't get the time that he really needed to be able to develop this year. And for the Blazers to get more data. And you know how general managers are, front offices, they want as much data as possible. But they were happy with his work during the offseason, so I'm looking forward to him getting back. Drew Holiday, Deni Avdija, who's getting some good rest right now, and the Blazers having a better complement of players for Tiago Splitter in the stretch run to where they can position themselves for the play-in or one of the playoff seeds. But they will be a member of the postseason on some level, and that's great. And Vic Krejci, who should play tonight, is going to help this team immensely. Remember, the Trailblazers near the tops of the league in three-point attempts, but they're at the very bottom in terms of three-point percentage. Vic Krejci changes that because the guy shoots the three ball at over 42%. So credit to Joe Cronin and his staff, especially Mike Schmitz, for putting the team in a terrific position of power to where they can remain patient but opportunistic. And then also I think what they'll look to do is they like the young core, they like their culture, and now I would expect them to start targeting guys that can bring a specific skill set to the roster and guys who can help. So it's going to be fun. And the deadline's coming up on Thursday. I'll have a complete NBA trade deadline show on Thursday, and Sean Highkin will join me in studio at 4. Burkhart will be in studio at 3, and we'll see what shakes out between now and then. All right, we'll come back, and we'll dive into the Super Bowl. Hawks and Patriots. Who's got the advantage? What is the critical key matchup of the game? Have you thought about that in your mind? Joe DeLeon's going to tell us next. We'll also get his take on Dante Moore and what it's going to do for him and the Ducks to return for another year, and what's the key area where he needs to focus on for improvement before he makes the jump to the NFL. We'll get to that next. And then Sean Highkin at 5, Brooke Olzendam at 5:20, and the captain, Rich Patterson, stopping by at 4:20. I appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. Tip-off with the Blazers and Suns coming up at 8 here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, I'm looking at the Rip City Radio text line. You can reach out to me right now. Just text to 88528. This question says, Chad, would you rather have Scoot or Love if you could only have one? Well, that's a no-brainer. I'm taking Scoot. I want Scoot because I believe his ceiling is much higher than that of Caleb Love's, and I think Caleb Love has been great, and I love his story, and I appreciate the work he's put in to become a big-time contributor this year for the Blazers when they needed him most. But, you can find a off-guard that can score. Those guys are a dime a dozen in the NBA, but finding someone with the skill set and athleticism of Scoot is a little bit more rare. Now, we don't know yet because we haven't gotten enough of Scoot, but I've seen enough flashes, especially with his body, too. Just look at his physical traits. He's young. He's really physically strong. And also he came on, and I know the team was really happy with his defensive progress in the back half of last season. So, yeah, I would take Scoot 100%. So if you want to hit me up, you can do so. Just reach out on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528. I'm here at Moda Center right now. Suns and Blazers coming up at 8 o'clock. Now, I'll get to the Super Bowl in just a moment, but I do want to give some love to Deni Avdia, who has been named to the 2026 All-Star team, and well-deserved based on the way he has balled off. He'll be a part of the world team, but Deni Avdia has been great. And I know for a fact that the team is quite pleased with his progress, especially with the workload and the decision-making being really the key point guard on the team this year and facilitating the offense and the workload on defense. Like, there's a lot of complexities out there that he's been managing and doing a heck of a job. And he's still getting to the rim at an alarming rate and to the foul line, and teams are scouting him and trying to shut him down, and they can't. So that is what being a star is all about. And Deni, after the game on Sunday against the Cavaliers, was asked about being named to the All-Star team. Let's take a listen to Deni. Deni!
I think I was so focused on the game that I even when they showed film and stuff, it was right when they announced it. I was just focused on the game, but obviously I think it was sinking tonight more than anything because I was really focused on the team and the game versus Cleveland, and that's about it.
So you were watching film of Cleveland when you heard the announcement as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I did, and I didn't really I heard my phone buzzing at the back. So I said maybe it's buzzing because I didn't get selected and people are oh, then never mind, you're good next year, whatever, or I got selected. But other than that, I didn't have no idea.
Did you think there was a chance you wouldn't get selected?
I think there's this great players that didn't get chosen for the All-Star game, and obviously there's a lot of talent in this league that could have been instead of me. But I worked hard, I play hard. I don't want to say I deserve it, but I do respect me and my game, and I'm really happy that I'm able to be an All-Star.
Have you let yourself enjoy it yet?
I don't know. I think it just the mindset of you being in it is just enjoy, and it's just fun. But I have a lot of other things I think about. You know what I'm saying? It's just how to win games, how to because we're struggling a little bit right now as a team. So I'm thinking more about the team right now than actually the All-Star. I feel like the closer it's gonna get, the more I'm gonna think about it. But for now, I'm really trying to stay with my teammates.
What was the reaction from family and friends and stuff? Lots of congrats and stuff like that.
A lot of congratulation messages. I don't have a lot of friends and family here with me, but obviously contacted me, and I just the amount of love, not from only the fans and not only from the family and friends, it's also the fans, and the whole state of Israel for real is just standing behind me. It's amazing. My teammates been awesome, coaches, everybody. Just hugging and showing the love for sure.
They said something pregame in the locker room. They kind of acknowledged something Tiago pointed out pregame in the locker room. Is that right?
Yeah, Tiago announced it to me after the meeting.
Yeah, props to Deni Avdia. I love Deni. I love the Jewish people. I'm excited that he gets to represent an entire country, and what a big-time baller. In fact, one of the NBA insiders I was talking to out of the state of Oregon last night, he said Deni has been terrific. He's a sick player, so good, relentless. And I've gotten that from a few guys. They love the relentless nature of the way he attacks at all times. So big props to Deni Avdia. His all-star nod is well-deserved. The guy's just been balling his backside off. The Blazers got him from Washington for Malcolm Brogdon and a couple of picks. And now look at him. He's a budding superstar in the NBA. I love it. All right, let's talk a little Super Bowl. Joe DeLeon, who is an NFL draft expert, a really good football mind. I had a chance to talk with him yesterday, and I wanted to talk about Sam Darnold. You know, what's been the big key with Darnold? How has he been able to put this together? And so he's going to talk about Darnold. He'll talk about the key matchups in the Super Bowl and give his prediction, but really appreciate the work of Sam Darnold. Survived the Jets and the Panthers, get an opportunity to be reborn with Kyle Shanahan, and then you get the ultimate opportunity in Minnesota and cash in. And now with Seattle, he's been terrific. Back-to-back phenomenal seasons for Darnold, who has been over the last few years the winningest quarterback in the NFL. Like, you can't argue with the result. He's been great, and he was awesome in the NFC title game, and Joe DeLeon breaks him down.
Well, I think that the biggest thing is just having won the buy-in from where he was. Last year, there was no expectation for Darnold to play at a high level because he was brought in to be a backup spot starter for J.J. McCarthy in his first season. And to have the team rally around him, and I think that the offense be built around his skill set was huge. And then this year, it was even more so the case where Kubiak knew exactly how to set him up to play at a very high level. I think that the biggest thing for him is he's done a really good job of being able to throw on the run, and he's done a really good job with his decisiveness. We're starting to finally see the version of him that I think everybody expected when he declared for the draft so many years ago. And it all comes down to this, this whole process of he didn't play that much in college, and he was put onto a team that didn't have the supporting cast to help him succeed. And while he was trying to learn and get better, he was being thrown to the wolves. And now he's been through so many difficult battles, and he's been through so much that all of that compounds over time. And now he gets this opportunity to prove himself. Just that overall experience, I think, translates to seeing how he plays, because he just looks a lot more natural. He looks a lot more comfortable, and he looks a lot more confident.
You know, I'm anxious to know through your mind as you watch the Seahawks. They impress me because they appear to be able to win games in all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams. What do you think is their ultimate strength that gives them an advantage coming up on Sunday?
I think it's their defensive aggressiveness. That, to me, is the biggest aspect of this, is that they're able to creatively attack opposing quarterbacks to put them in blenders. I know that the NFC Championship game wasn't the best example because Matthew Stafford had an awesome performance, but look at the way that they played against the 49ers. Look at the way that they played against the Panthers and also the 49ers during the regular season. They did such a tremendous job of creating confusion. And I think it also comes down to the way that they can effectively pull that off is their unique talent that they have on their defense. Nick Emenwari is one of my favorite players to watch right now in the NFL because he's such a freakish athlete. He's a big body. He's built like a linebacker, but moves like a safety. And he is just a deployable piece. Crazy that he fell as far as he did, and that Seattle was able to scoop him up after drafting Zabel in the first round, who's key for their long-term success. I think that because their bodies, the bodies that they have on defense fit exactly what McDonald wants to disrupt opposing quarterbacks is what has made them so dangerous, and what will make them dangerous going up against Drake May, who's had a couple of bad games. Minus playing in the snow, he's had a little bit of a shaky stretch when he's gone up against good defenses.
Hey, Joe, with Clint Kubiak calling the offense, he's part of that Shanahan tree, and, of course, his father, Gary, was a huge influence as well. What are some differences in terms of how he runs the West Coast that you see through Clint Kubiak? Are there identifiers that show you what he's all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Kubiak has just done such a really similar to kind of what I was talking about earlier with Darnold and the buy-in. I think that he's just done a really good job of activating a lot of these players that they have on the roster to be aggressive and to attack. And I think that the biggest, most interesting aspect of this is how they've used Jackson Smith and Jigba and how they've gotten the most out of him. I think that his development and his growth after being a promising young player into now one of the best receivers in the NFL is just really intriguing, because you're consistently seeing unbelievable route running. You're seeing impact with the ball in his hands after he makes a grab. There's just been so much that I think that Kubiak has instilled, and I'm very intrigued to see how things are going to turn out in Vegas if he does end up officially taking that job.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited to see, and a lot of respect for the family. Joe DeLeon here on the Rip City Drive. Now, with the Patriots, they've struggled throughout the course of their playoff run on offense. Is that what are you seeing that's led to those offensive issues? Is that a product of just playing in, cold, freezing temperatures, bad conditions? Is it Drake May maybe not being 100%? Is it the fact their left tackle's having issues right now with pass blocking? What are you seeing that's led to the offensive struggles through those playoff games, or is it just the fact they played three of the best defensive teams in football?
I think it's that. I think we have to give them a pass for the way they played against the Broncos because they're playing in snow. And I mean, you're playing in a situation that's going to be difficult to move the ball for any team.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that they play a light schedule this year, and I'm not saying this to discount what they are as a team, but I think that having played a weak schedule, going into the playoffs, and you're facing the three hardest defenses that you've seen all year, and your offensive line is not really equipped to go up with those teams because they all have really good defensive lines. I think that was what created the recipe for them struggling a little bit. They're not running the ball as effectively as they had. Trevion Henderson's not as explosive as he was in spurts during the middle of the year. I just think that now they were really being challenged, but to their credit, they've done a really good job of, despite their offense struggling, one, their defense making plays to get the ball back, to force, for Fields, and to also even put points on the board on their own regard. The offense still found ways to succeed and to finish off drives despite being clunky and not being as clean. So I think that's what still makes them dangerous, is that even if offensively they don't have that same potency as they did in the middle of the year, there is still evidence to show that their defense can keep them alive and their offense can rebound quickly. They've got a very short-term memory.
Yeah, Drake May, what are your thoughts on his progress through year number 2? I mean, it looked like through my eyes that he was not afraid to attack downfield this year. Very impressive. But what are you seeing? Because you've got more of the scout eye. What do you think about year number 2 for Drake?
Yeah, I think that just naturally he was a guy coming into the league that needed a chance to really shine. And I think that it's really crazy how well he's performed. If we pull back and look at this offense as a whole, as in terms of personnel and bodies that they have out there, it's not like it's an offense that would even sniff the top half of the league. You've got an offensive line that's below average. You got Will Campbell, who, frankly, in my opinion, is playing out of position, should be playing guard. You've got a promising young running back with Trevion Henderson, who has been inconsistent. You've got Butte and Kyle Williams, who are solid receivers, but probably wouldn't have the roles that they do now on other teams. And Stephon Diggs is towards the end of his career, and I think that a lot of May's success has just come from his ability to disregard the situation and just to completely maintain confidence in himself. I think that that's awesome, seeing how he's consistently poised and he consistently plays well under pressure. All those things are translating to them winning, and I think it translates to him having long-term success.
All right, I wanted to ask you, with the Super Bowl matchup, before I get your prediction, what is maybe the area of the game that you think is the most interesting that no one talks about when you look at this matchup with the Seahawks and Patriots? Is there anything like that for you?
Yeah, I think that the most interesting is who's going to be able to establish their ground game, because I think that both of these teams, their offense has flowed the best when they've found success running the football. Kenneth Walker's been on a tear the last couple of games, and they've gotten some huge plays out of him. But they're also depleted, with Charbonnet going out with an injury and not having that same level of depth. And Ramondre Stevenson's done a solid job for the Patriots, but they need more out of him, and they need more out of Trevion Henderson. So I think that knowing that both these teams are physical and try to set the tone up front, whoever can get their ground game going, I think is going to be the team that ends up winning this game.
Well, the line opened Seattle -5.5, quickly dropped to 4.5, and that's where it's remained from that period moving forward. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, I'm still taking the Seahawks to cover that 4.5. I think that in terms of the line of scrimmage advantage, Seattle has that advantage on both sides of the ball. I think that the defensive line is going to have their way with slowing down the Patriots' rushing attack. I think that we're also going to see the Seattle offensive line to be able to get push running the football against that Patriots offensive line or the Patriots defensive line that they have, even though they've been really good. It all comes down to the main advantage that they're going to be able to have getting after Drake May and slowing down that rushing attack. I think that Seattle is going to be able to win this game and win it by at least a touchdown.
All right, there's Joe DeLeon on the Super Bowl and Sam Darnold, Drake May, and he thinks that key matchup is going to be who is going to be able to establish the ground game and provide that type of balance. And the good thing is about the Seahawks, if they can get that ground game going with Kenneth Walker, that opens up the boot game, which is critical in that Kubiak offense, and we'll see what type of plays Sam Darnold's going to be able to make. I think Kubiak's really good at this, but I think what will happen is, and we've seen this over the last few weeks with the Hawks when they've really been dialed in, playing their best football at the right time, there'll be multiple throws throughout the course of the game where they're going to be easy layups, right? The dump passes, the underneath stuff that Darnold will have a high percentage on, and then they're going to dial up a few plays. And there's going to be probably 5 to 8 throws throughout the course of the game where he's going to have to make something happen. The other thing I like about Darnold, I don't consider him a big-time runner like Lamar Jackson, but he's enough of a scrambler to be able to, buy time with his feet when things break down, giving him an opportunity to find somebody break open late. So he's got that type of athleticism where he can keep things alive, he can buy time, and then deliver the football, accurately. He's had a big-time year, and his teammates adore him. They love him. And I'm excited to see Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch right now. And hopefully Kenneth Walker can continue this, latest trend of being able to, bring balance into that offense. But it's going to be fun to watch. I love the coaching matchup. A lot of experience with Josh McDaniels. Mike Vrabel's really smart. Mike McDonald's done a heck of a job. And Clint Kubiak is one of the young and hot offensive minds in the game right now. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to go and coach the Raiders. All right, we'll come back, and you'll hear Joe's thoughts on Dante Moore and what he needs to work on in his next year at Oregon as he continues to make preparations for the NFL draft. Brooke Olzendam going to stop by at 5:20. The captain, Rich Patterson, is going to be at 4:20. Sean Hyken stopping by at 5. Also, I forgot to tell you, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday today. Your chance to see the Blazers and Grizzlies here at Moda Center this weekend is coming up at 5 o'clock. All you have to do is listen to me for your chance to win. You've got the Rip City Drive. All right, couple of different things I want you to hear. And I want to start with this. Joe DeLeon, who we just heard and got his Super Bowl thoughts on, because he is a draft analyst and someone that scouts all the players. I wanted to get his take on Dante Moore, who's made the decision to return to Oregon for another season. And I'm excited to see him play and grow and continue to develop as he has a chance to lead the Ducks to a potential playoff berth and national championship again. And, of course, to improve for the NFL. And I asked him about Dante Moore and what that extra year at Oregon is going to do for him. Here's what Joe had to say.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing from him is just improved decision-making. I think that there were instances at Oregon this past year where he was pressing a little bit too much. I also thought that there were instances where he didn't evaluate pressure in front of him. He held on the ball a little bit too long. His pocket presence wasn't as good as I think it could have been. It's just all little refined details that come with reps. Any quarterback can be really gifted like Dante Moore, but to reach your potential, you got to see more live bullets. You got to take more action and be in more difficult situations to learn how to play the position at a high level. It's the only position in, I think, any sport that requires a cerebral capability to react. I mean, it's not like being a defensive end or a running back where your athleticism can win out. Even though technique and awareness are important for those positions, you have to have as much exposure to as many different things as possible. So I think that this upcoming year, it's great that he is going to be coming back. Most importantly, because Sam Darnold's a perfect example of this. You declare for the NFL and you get drafted by the Jets, there's a strong chance that you are going to be scapegoat for problems over the next couple of years. And if you're not a fully developed prospect, it's just going to be such a bad spot for you to try and learn on the job, being a part of an organization that has not set up a young quarterback to succeed in a very, very long time.
Yeah, no question. You do not want to be drafted by the Jets unless you want your life and your career to be ruined. That's what the Jets do. But Dante Moore, excited to see him back in a Duck uniform to get more time and so he can continue to develop as he gets ready to make that jump to the NFL. Joe DeLeon, also a very big fan of Fernando Mendoza and how his game translates to the NFL with his decision-making, his work ethic, his accuracy, his ball placement, everything about his game, reeks of NFL success. And, of course, he is undoubtedly going to be taken by the Raiders. And he also made the point, too, that for a guy like Mendoza, you talk about being drafted by the Jets and how that can be very bad for you. A potentially good situation for Mendoza, not necessarily the Raiders because they've been mostly a train wreck for decades, but they're hiring a coach in Clint Kubiak who's got the great offensive mind. So you give Mendoza a chance to really hit the ground running, work with an offensive mind. Those two guys can grow together, and then hopefully that will lead to success for Mendoza. We see it with quarterbacks all the time, right? Patrick Mahomes wound up in Kansas City with Andy Reid. He and Mahomes have been able to grow over their course of time in Kansas City and have that relationship, and the offense really works. We see it in Denver with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. The Patriots were smart to draft Drake May, but then get off of Gerard Mayo when they realized that he wasn't the right coach for the future. So they went out and get Mike Vrabel, and he brings in Josh McDaniels, and now you've got that connection between McDaniels and May to where those two can be able to work together. I also think, a lot of people made, noise about Sean Payton talking about Bo's ankle injuries, and then Bo had his own press conference to clarify what Coach said, and Bo said he probably shouldn't be talking about his surgeries or how many he's had. But I actually think the give and take and the fact that there's mutual respect there and the fact that Bo is not afraid to speak his mind and they share ideas, they can, argue with one another when need be, when tensions are high, but that respect there, I think that give and take is good. I think Sean Payton likes guys who will stand up to him and share their mind and not just get run over. So I'm excited. We'll see what happens, but I think Dante Moore is going to be in a good spot. And Dan Lanning continues to recruit. He continues to utilize the Oregon resources and build, and I think Dante Moore will get better next year. And, we've seen quarterbacks do that before where Think about, Carson Beck had a rough ending in Georgia, but went to Miami, played much better, and I think, recouped his image to a degree during his time with the Hurricanes. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. The other thing I want you to hear is Blake Wesley, who made his return. He played the first 6 games of the season and then had the broken bone in his foot, was out for basically 3 months, and made his return to the lineup in that game Sunday against the Cavaliers. He is a guy who plays really fast, fits what this team is trying to do really well, and he creates havoc out there on the floor. I thought it was funny when Travis yesterday told me that he's like the dizzy dinosaur. You wind him up and let him go, and he just causes chaos out there. 5 points, 4 assists, and a steal in 19 minutes of action in that game on Sunday, and he talked about the return and that process.
Give all the glory to God for being back. Excited to be out there, looking fast, doing what I do. So,
had you been targeting this date to return for a while, or lead us through the process to get here?
Just when I feel ready. I mean, not rushing it. When I feel good. Played a couple 4-on-4, 3-on-3. Was a little winded. I did extra sprints to get back in shape, and just how I feel. And today felt great. So yeah.
How frustrating was it, after getting off to such a good start in the season and then not being able to play for basically 3 months?
Stuff happens. Parents tell me all the time, how you gonna bounce back? Never happened to me before. My first surgery, so it was a little tough for me at first, but had my teammates around me, had the staff around me, had my mom, my family, my grandparents, everybody around me, supporting me through the tough times, and then that's what I needed. So I got through it, and I'm back. It took me about 8 weeks. Then I started running out of but I'm still getting back in shape. Still gonna do some extra conditioning to get back. So yeah.
You had a 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10?
I say 7.5 out of 10 for sure. Still not winded, but still can feel it. I feel it's gonna take me like 2 or 3 games to get back, but I'm looking fast, as you guys know, and look at myself. So yeah.
How would you evaluate the way you did play tonight?
I feel like I did what I did, what the team wanted me to do. Everybody's not gonna be perfect, so I'm just trying to do out there and just help the team win. But today we came up short. So how about we gonna bounce back, and we got one Tuesday, so we're looking forward to that.
All right, there you go. That's Blake Wesley. What a player he is. High energy, very defensive-minded, long arms, and he gets up and down the floor quickly. So we'll see more of him tonight, and we'll get the Trailblazer debut for Vit Krejci, the 42% three-point shooter. That is a sight for sore eyes here in Rip City. All right, we'll keep things rolling. The captain, Rich Patterson, coming up at 4:20. Trailblazer ticket Tuesday at 5. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. A reminder, I've got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up at 5 o'clock. Listen to me for your chance to win tickets for the Blazers and Grizzlies here at Moda Center. Portland's back in action tonight. They host Phoenix, game 2 of a 5-game homestand. Denny Avdia will not play with his sore back. Scoot Henderson is still out, but is expected to make his season debut this week. And the newest Blazer acquired from Atlanta Sunday, Vic Krejci, is expected to make his Blazers debut. Drew Holiday still questionable with personal reasons. Portland looking to snap a 5-game slide. Trade deadline Thursday. Join me for the Rip City Drive for a full breakdown. Sean Highkin will join me in studio at 4. Chris Burkhardt also in studio. The Utah Jazz have acquired Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies in an 8-player deal. Anthony Simons on his way to Chicago. Celtics send Ant and a second-round pick to the Bulls in exchange for Nikola Vucevic. Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit have agreed on a multi-team deal that sends Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley to the Bulls, Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric to the Pistons. All right, coming up in 20 minutes, I'll be joined by the network coordinator for the Trailblazers on their audio network, Rich Patterson, the captain. We're going to talk some Portland wrestling. He sent over some audio bites that I must play, so I'm excited about that. The captain, a good friend and a Portland sports historian. So I've got audio from Don Koss, former voice of Portland wrestling, and rest in peace, my friend. Don Koss, heavily involved in Portland wrestling, but he was also one of my very first radio bosses. He had a couple of radio stations down in Woodburn, KWBY, La Pantera, and I think that was 940 AM, and then 1460 KCKX, which was down in Willamette Valley. I called high school basketball, football, and baseball, both boys and girls, on his stations for years, and had a chance to work for him, and he was a terrific human being. A great man, a great human being, a very good boss, and one of those guys who, made a big difference in my life, and he passed away just last year. And he was an awesome man with a great, deep voice, radio voice. So we'll hear from Don Koss, Dutch Savage, the Grappler, and Rose Piper from 79. So the captain's going to join me. He's got a big event coming up that we'll talk about. And the captain has also been a very big curator of all the Portland wrestling videos and stuff that he's been sharing with some of the guys from that era. So we'll talk to the captain. Brooke Olzendam is going to stop by again. How lucky am I? I had Brooke yesterday, and I get Brooke again today. Back-to-back days of Brooke Olzendam on the Rip City Drive. We'll talk some basketball with her. And we'll also talk about Brooke Heart Your Heart and the efforts that she's put together with her foundation. And I think she's raised now over $154,000. And you can support just by simply buying one of her Brooke Heart Your Heart beanie caps, which are available online at RipCityClothing.com. Or if you're coming to the arena, you can stop by Rip City Clothing and pick up one of the beanie caps. A simple way to support her efforts. And the Trailblazers are going to match funds. So it's a very good deal. We'll talk with Brooke, who's coming on the show at 5:20. Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, is going to stop by at 5 o'clock, and we'll get the latest on the Blazers, their roster, the trade deadline, each and every possible thing you can imagine with Sean Highkin at 5 o'clock. And I've got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, pair of tickets for the Blazers and Grizzlies. Your chance to win is coming up at 5. All you have to do is listen to me for your chance to win. Yeah! Because I care about people, and I want to help you get to a Blazer game. Because we all know that the only thing better than sports is free sporting events. The only thing better than golf is free golf. And when you can get tickets at no charge, courtesy of me and your Portland Trailblazers, you got to take advantage of that. All right, the Super Bowl. So on Friday, I'm pumped because I'm going to be down at Spirit Mountain Casino. I'm going to be down there on Friday to do my show, and I'll be hosting the Diamonds and Dollars drawings. Your chance to win cash or a diamond jewelry set. That's Friday in the month of February. Fridays in the month of February. So I'll be down there on Friday. But on the show, Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager, is going to join me at 3:20, and then I'll talk with Brian Bino, Fox Sports Radio at 4:20. So we'll do a full Super Bowl preview. But the interesting part about this game, from a wagering standpoint, and I'll be diving into this with Justin, it's so much more difficult to handicap the Super Bowl because of the numbers and the amount of dollars that are being wagered. And the numbers I got today from someone I respect, this is legalized gambling, legal wagering, also including, I'm throwing in the prediction markets as well. But there's an anticipated, if you take the prediction markets out, they're anticipating $1.7 billion with a B to be wagered on the Super Bowl. And when you kick it, the prediction markets, it's going to take it over $2 billion. That is a massive number that is just mind-boggling to me, that there's going to be over $2 billion wagered legally on the Super Bowl. Now, what's interesting with the line is it opened up at 5.5. It quickly dropped down to 4.5, and that's where the line has stayed for an extended period of time. So that's what we're looking at right now. Now, it did start to push back up to close to 5 with some of the juice, but it's remained at 4.5, and I would expect it to stay at 4.5 the rest of the way up until kickoff. Now, what's interesting is with the Super Bowl is that the books, from my understanding, not too concerned or as concerned about the side as they would be in other games because of the amount of numbers and dollars that are being wagered on the prop bets. And last year would be a perfect example. I believe that there were hundreds of millions of dollars wagered just on Saquon Barkley alone to score a touchdown and the over-under on total yards for him. And so you look at the number of dollars that are being wagered on the prop bets, it's enormous. And so when you factor that in, there's other things for the books to worry about aside from just, the point spread for the game. Right now, as I've told you, and again, I haven't dug in on the side, so I don't want to give my final prediction because I haven't talked to all the people I normally talk to. I'll give that on Friday. But I do acknowledge that the Seahawks have more pathways to victory. They're the more complete team. They can win with special teams, defense, and offense. I mean, that's how I see it, right? But I also know that the Patriots have excellent coaching with Vrabel and then Josh McDaniels, who's, how many games? I don't know the exact number of games he has coordinated on offense in the playoffs, but it's got to be an extreme total with all his time with, Tom Brady, and now he's getting a chance to go back and do it with Drake May. Josh McDaniels is pretty simple. As a head coach, awful. And not a good human being as a head coach, and any of the players that played for him, they all despise. But he is a terrific coordinator. And there's been many coaches, not good as a head man, but as a coordinator, they're a specialist. Vic Fangio was a disaster as a head coach with the Broncos, but he's a terrific defensive coordinator. There's a lot of guys like that. So the Hawks have more pathways to victory, but I would imagine that their coaching with Vrabel and McDaniels have to give you a slight pause, right? So that's very interesting. So we'll see how things settle, but it does look like the majority of money on the side right now would be with the Seahawks. But it's harder, too, because of the sheer numbers of dollars that are being wagered to know exactly where the sharp money's at, where the public money is at, and so that's where we're at. But I'll get into a full breakdown with Justin Ballinger coming up on Friday. He'll join the show at 3:20 when I'm down there at Spirit Mountain Casino. Now, I'm going to be hosting the Super Bowl party down there. It's pretty cool because they set it up in the event center. The Seahawks fans did not take long to sell that bad boy out. There's going to be over 700 people there. And then what they do is they bring a couple of the kiosk machines down from the sports book to where, for those who want to do the in-game betting and be able to do the action or whatever, they don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to make the trip down to the sports book. You can just have everything you need, food, game, multiple screens, everything from the event center at Spirit Mountain Casino for the big game party. So it's all good. So I'm just intrigued by the matchup. I can't wait to see how it plays out. And I feel like the Patriots, they're one of those teams that might be like a year or two ahead of schedule. Because if you look at the overall roster, they shouldn't be where they're at. But because Mike Vrabel, his coaching impact is so significant, they've been able to overcome and get to where they're at. So very impressive. And for the Seahawks, they were good last year, and then they went out and upgraded at quarterback, and we knew their defense was going to be legit with the young talent, and now look at them. They've been able to take that, next leap, that next jump. Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Mike McDonald has really kind of brought in his own culture and laid the foundation for how he wants to play, and they should be able to apply a lot of pressure on that Patriots offense. And you know how these games go, right? It's going to come down to typically 4 to 5 big plays that determine the outcome of the game. And I would say for the Patriots, their pathway to victory is it's pretty simple, right? Opportunistic with their defense. They probably need to force a couple of turnovers and win that battle. And if they do, you're going to be right there in a football game come fourth quarter. But I really appreciate how the Hawks have really pieced everything together and gotten to the point where they're playing their best football of the season, getting ready for the biggest game of the year. And I look back to that Rams game. The key for the Seahawks and the reason why they're where they're at right now was that Thursday night victory over the Rams. Down big, 16 points in the fourth quarter. They get the sweet touchdown return from Shaheed with the special teams, and then Sam Darnold went on a heater and converted not one, not two, but 3 consecutive 2-point conversions. One was a miracle from God on the deflected pass that was just casually picked up in the end zone. That was a 2-point conversion, but Darnold got the job done. And even after the Rams, thanks to Puka Nacua, went straight down the field and scored in overtime, Darnold brought his team right back down the field, got the touchdown and the 2-point conversion. And by the way, how big balls was that by McDonald? Going for the win. And it paid off because that opened up the pathway for the Hawks to get home field advantage. And when it comes to playoffs at home, the Seahawks, so tough to beat. But it's funny, you can always look back to every team that's had a championship run. You can look back to a key moment, key play, key game during the course of the regular season when everything just came together. And for me, it was that Rams game. Because after that, when the Hawks got over that hump against the team that matches up better with them than anybody, the Rams, once they got over that hump, they just put the throttle on. They whacked the 49ers in the regular season finale, whacked them again in the postseason, and then Sam Darnold put the throttle on the offense in the NFC title game, and they got the win. I mean, that was huge. And how about the play calling by Kubiak in that game when they had to run out the clock? Having the balls to be able to roll him out and throw the football. It's like, good gracious, I love that type of aggressiveness, especially when you get in a situation where one team is expecting run and you mix it up. And you go 1-2 skidoo and you go with the boot pass. It was great play. All right, we'll come back. The captain, Rich Patterson, is going to join me, and we're going to dive into some Portland wrestling. You can reach out, 503-248-0620. Hit me up on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528. And we got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up at 5 right before we talk with Sean Hyken here on the Rip City Drive. All right, I feel like a special man because the Trailblazers network coordinator of their audio network, the captain, Rich Patterson, came in early today to hang out with me on the show. And I don't know if I ever told you this story when it comes to wrestling, but I was, when I was younger, I was working at this gym, this health club over in Vancouver, Health Experience, and it was up on off Mill Plain and at the old Tower Mall in the Heights. And, every once in a while I'd see a couple of athletes come through, and I'd recognize them and get a chance to talk to them. But there was no doubt who this guy was when he walked in through the front door and he came up to the front desk. It was Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Oh, wow.
And he was living at the time in Vancouver, and so he would come in frequently to work out. And so I would talk with him and befriend him, and he was very nice to me. And, one day I told my buddy Chris, who was a huge Portland wrestling fan and a huge fan of Superfly Snuka, he's like, "Can you get an autograph for me?" And so I approached Snook one day, and I said, "Hey, my man, I've got a big fan of yours, a friend of mine, really good friend Chris, and he would like an autograph." And I would already talk to Snook and let him know I had his action figure at home, right, from when I was younger, because I had these wrestling action figures.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, brother, I'll make a trade. I'll get a nice glossy photo and I'll autograph it for your friend if I can have the action figure." And so we made a trade.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought that was great that I was able to give something in return that he wanted, and I got the glossy photo that was him in the middle of getting ready to kill somebody that he signed for me, and I gave it to my buddy, and I just thought that was neat. So he and I were friendly up and for as long as he worked out there.
It's funny you mentioned Snuka, because when I first started watching wrestling when I was 8, 9 years old, Jimmy Snuka, who got his start in Portland, was my favorite.
Yes.
But back then, he wasn't Superfly. They called him Big Snuka. Not even Jimmy Snuka. He was Big Snuka. And he was partners with someone who he met in Hawaii, went by Cowboy Frankie Lane. And Cowboy Frankie Lane and Big Snuka with a big tag team, 1971, 70-71 run in there. But, yeah, Snuka was my favorite.
How big time was Snuka inside of the Portland wrestling?
Huge. As far as the 1970s, he was here consistently from about 73 through 77, and he was magnificent. He one of the biggest draws, and he was going off the top rope back then. Granted, the top rope at the Portland Sports Arena was not like going off the top of the cage at Madison Square Garden, but it was still, he was unlike anybody we had seen here before, and he teamed up mainly with Dutch Savage, and they were huge. They were extremely popular.
How did you get connected or hooked on Portland wrestling? Kind of walk me through how you were introduced to it and how you became such a big fan. It was when you were younger, obviously.
When I was younger, my family would watch it, or my dad and my brothers. My mom and my sister know we did. And when I first started watching it, it was on Friday nights, and then it moved to Saturday at 8:30. So it became a ritual in our family at 8 o'clock, All in the Family, and then at 8:30, Portland Wrestling.
And what channel was Portland Wrestling on back in the day?
Channel 12.
Channel 12.
Channel 12. It was on Channel 6 KPTV from the 50s up until about 1966. It went off the air for about 9 months, came back in 1967, was on KPTV from 67 until they went off at the end of 91.
So you started watching and just became a big-time fan.
Just became a fan. Yeah, it was fun as a kid. And, of course, I believed it.
Yes.
Of course, everything you saw.
I did, too.
Was the first time I ever went and saw it in person was at the Portland Sports Arena. I was maybe 9 years old. This was in 71, I believe. And the main event were the Royal Kangaroos, Kangaroo Jonathan Boyd and Norman Frederick Charles III, going against Ed and Bill Francis, a father-son team. And we were sitting, if people remember Portland wrestling, I was across from where they would do TV. And I was with my oldest brother and some of his friends, and it was bloody. It was a bloody match, and I didn't want to see it. So I am hiding my eyes. I'm looking into my brother's shoulder, acting like I'm really looking at the ring, but I don't want to see all that blood.
Yes.
And so that was the first time I was ever at the sports arena.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Snuka showed me the little scratches on his forehead.
Little?
Where you would...
Where they'd nick themselves.
They would nick themselves, and that because it wasn't fake blood back in the day.
Oh, well, it's never been fake blood. It's always been they actually cut themselves.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's amazing to believe that. And you can see some of the guys who to this day, when some of the guys who've been around for a long time, you can see the the marks on their forehead. The first time I ever met Playboy Buddy Rose, I told my wife, now don't look at his forehead because I'm sure it's going to be all marked up and scarred up. And Buddy must have had some work done because it was pretty smooth. And Buddy cut himself a lot.
A ton.
A lot.
I never got a chance to meet Buddy Rose, but I've talked to you and other people who said he was awesome.
He was an amazing guy. Just the persona that he was on that he had on TV was not like him in real life. Granted, I met him in like 95, so Portland Wrestling had been off the air for about 4 years. But the thing about Buddy is that he loved Rick Springfield. He loved Solid Gold, Happy Days, Superman, Dallas, and General Hospital. And I got to know all of this because when I would convert these tapes that he ended up giving me, those were all on there. He loved those shows. And he had his dachshunds. And when he would call me at home, and if I wasn't home, our dog would be there. We had a big old Cubby at the time, and he'd go, Cubby, what's on a tree? That's right, bark. Hey, Cubby, what's on top of the house? Roof. And he would do all of these things. And then when Kurt Hennig, another guy who got his start here in Portland, Mr. Perfect in the WWF, when he passed away, I wasn't home, and Buddy called and left me a message, and he was basically crying on my answering machine because they were best friends. Those are things I wish I would have kept.
Yeah.
Because it just showed that Buddy was he was a great guy. I would never ride in a car with him, though. I rode once. He had this big, huge Cadillac, and he had cable TV in this Cadillac.
No way.
Yes, and he knew I was a Cubs fan. So he's driving with one hand, and he's trying to dial in WGN with the other hand, and he's going, we're somewhere in Vancouver, and, I missed that turn. He would just do a U-turn in the middle of an intersection with cars coming. And many people who have ridden with Buddy have said the same thing, that they would take their lives into their own hands if they're in the car with Playboy Buddy Rose.
My goodness. We're talking to the captain, Rich Patterson, here on the Rip City Drive. So many people don't know this, but over the course of time, you become a curator for the Portland wrestling shows and all the different things because you've acquired videotapes. So kind of talk to me about that process and how that began.
Well, it started back in the mid-'90s. It's like, boy, I would love to see some Portland wrestling, love to see some tapes. And this was right when the internet was first getting started, and there weren't many tapes around. I bought some, and they were like 6th or 7th generation, just horrible.
Yeah.
And somebody had said, Playboy Buddy Rose, I heard that he has a lot of tapes. And so I didn't know Buddy. He was doing a sports talk show on one of the lesser stations in town. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to call him and ask him. So I did, and he says, I have lots of tapes. And what ended up happening is that he would let me borrow tapes, and then I would get him tickets to Blazer games. He was a huge sports fan, and whenever I got him tickets to a game, he'd always want to be up on the big screen.
Yes.
And the people loved him. Even though he was a bad guy here for so many years, he was up on the big screen. People knew who he was, and they'd cheer for him. But then that got to the point to where we started hanging out, going out to lunch, things like that. And I said, I would really love to see some footage of Lonnie Main, Moondog Lonnie Main. People who followed Portland wrestling in the 60s and 70s, they know who Lonnie Main is. Huge, huge star. Could be possibly on the Mount Rushmore of Portland wrestling. And he said, I have some. What? And so he took me into his garage, and buried in the corner of his garage was this huge duffel bag with all of these videotapes that I had no idea what they were. They weren't VHS. They weren't beta. They're about twice the size of a VHS tape. And he said, I'm going to toss all these. I can't play them anymore. If you want them, go for it. And so I took he showed me the one tape. It said, Main Rose 1077. And right then I went, I've got to see that. Whatever's on there, I don't care what it takes. So I brought one of the tapes here to Blazer Broadcasting and showed it around to some guys, and they went on a hunt because they were Portland wrestling fans too. They wanted to know what this format of tape was, and ended up being a format called the Quasar Great Time Machine.
Wow.
It predates beta and VHS. And so then it came to the point of, okay, how do I get this converted? And I got in touch with somebody down in Texas, a big videotape machine audio collector, and this guy actually supplied all of the equipment that they had in Lost. Remember the TV show Lost?
Yes.
When they were down in the dungeon or whatever it was, and it was like a trip back in time. And this all came from this guy. And he said, I have one of these machines. I'll give it to you. You have to fix it, but I'll give it to you. And so there was a place in southeast Portland, one of the only places in the Northwest that would fix these machines.
Wow.
And so he cleaned up the belts, got all cleaned up for me, and I started playing these tapes. These tapes were in Buddy's garage for 20 years, so there's tons of mold and gunk on them. And so it would gum up the heads on this machine, and they'd stop running. Okay, have to go and take this machine in. There's another $100 to get the tapes cleaned. I could play a couple more tapes, gum up again. Anyhow, that's how I got all of this footage on there. And when I saw Lonnie Main on there, I geeked out. It's like, oh, man, I have found the holy grail of Portland wrestling here. And another thing I found on there that longtime Portland wrestling fans would remember is when Roddy Piper and Buddy Rose started their feud, which is one of the greatest feuds in the history of Portland wrestling. That's on there. So even though some of the tape, what you could see on there, it looks like tracking, but actually it's where the mold had eaten through onto the tape. But it's still there. It's better than nothing. And I got about maybe 30 hours of Portland wrestling from the 1970s there. And then when Buddy passed away in 2009, he taped Portland wrestling. He taped his shows, and he didn't record over anything. And so his wife, an amazing lady, Tammy, she said, what do I do with these? She was going to give some to Goodwill, put some in recycling, and said, no. I will take these tapes. He must have had 900 videotapes. Some were labeled, some weren't. So I ended up taking those home with me because I wasn't going to let her take those to Goodwill and somebody buy a tape for 25 cents, a tape Dancing with the Stars over a great Buddy Rose, Jay Youngblood match or something like that. It wasn't going to happen. And so that's where I ended up going through all these tapes. It took me a couple of years going through every single tape, and I ended up getting altogether about 400 hours of Portland wrestling tape. And it's because of Buddy. He saved all of that stuff. And so it was a labor of love for me. The great thing about this is you were a WWF fan in the 90s.
Yes.
You remember the blow-away diet with Playboy Buddy Rose where he was huge.
Yes.
He was huge by that time. And they poured laundry detergent on him and they blew a fan off. And that's how people remembered Playboy Buddy Rose. But thanks to all of this footage of him from the 70s and 80s from here in Portland, where he was amazing.
Yes.
He was amazing. People got to know, like, Buddy Rose, he was damn good.
Yeah.
He wasn't the blow-away diet guy. And also, Portland, just our little promotion up here in the Northwest, a lot of people didn't know about it. It didn't get in the national magazines or anything like that. So people, longtime wrestling fans, got to realize, man, they had a great promotion up there. Don Owen did a great job up there in Portland with Portland wrestling. And so Portland wrestling has gotten respect now. Last year at the Portland Wrestling Expo, I was right next to Eric Bischoff. And people who know wrestling from the 90s and over the past 30 years or so know Eric Bischoff ran WCW, and then he was in WWF. And we got to talking about the history of these tapes. And he said, I didn't know anything about Portland until I started seeing these videos on YouTube.
Awesome.
And so it's that's what's been great. Also, the folks that worked here, going back, many years, I would give them DVDs of their work because they didn't keep anything. Then there was one guy, Rip Oliver, who, once again, an all-time great. He lived down in Florida, and he had some tapes, but during a hurricane, his house flooded and lost everything a number of years ago. So I gave him, maybe 30 DVDs of his work.
Wow.
And what he told me, I'll never forget, he wrote to me and said, thank you so much for this footage. Now my grandkids can see what their grandpappy did for a living. And that grandpappy was great. Roddy Piper gave him everything that I had. And there's an email that he sent me saying, thank you so much for these. You're such a great friend. I'm so honored to know you. And it's like, God, Roddy. And he said, we got to get together sometime, have a Coke, and talk about the good old days. And he passed away a couple months later.
Oh, my goodness. The captain, Rich Patterson, is with us. Here's what I want to do. I want to take a break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about the Portland Wrestling Expo, which is coming up in February on the 21st, and talk about what's going to be going on there. And then we've got some different audio pieces that we're going to play, and you're going to tell us what's going on with Don Cost, Dutch Savage, the Grappler, and Rose Piper.
Yeah, these are all guys. The 4 guys are going to be inducted into the first Portland Wrestling Hall of Fame on the 21st.
This is awesome. It's coming up on the 21st. It's going to be a Holiday Inn at the Portland Airport. More with the captain, Rich Patterson, when we come back. It's the Rip City Drive right here on your home of the Blazers. Rip City Radio 620. Suns and Blazers tip off tonight at 8. All right, the captain, Rich Patterson, is with me, and we're talking a little Portland wrestling with the Hall of Fame dinner and expo coming up on the 21st. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn Portland Airport. Sean in Damascus just reached out and said, my dad used to sell car parts to a lot of the guys that were wrestlers on Portland Wrestling, Dutch Savage, Tony Bourne, among others, and would have a drink with them down at the bowling alley on Morrison.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Very nice. Very nice.
All right. We got some great audio we want to play that the captain sent over to me. So let's go ahead and start with the Grappler from 1990.
Yeah, I mean, the Grappler is a guy who came here in September of 1987, and Portland Wrestling was on a downward slide. It had seen much better days, and Grappler, he'd been a headliner in the southern United States. He came in here as a booker, and he really reinvigorated the whole Portland wrestling, gave it new life, and it grew up again, and definitely someone who should be a Hall of Famer.
And I'm paying the Equalizer a lot of money if he can put that nothing happening longer rip all around the action tonight. But I will say something to the Southern Rockers, brother. These belts right here look real nice around our waist. And there ain't no way in hell you're going to take these titles away from the Wrecking Crew. Because they got a name for you when you're the greatest tag team in the sport of professional wrestling today. They don't call you a great team. They call you the Wrecking Crew. Beat us if you can.
That's so good.
Classic. And I believe that Len Denton, the Grappler, is going to be at this event as well on the 21st.
Oh, perfect.
Another Hall of Famer is Dutch Savage, and the story behind this audio is I had my little tape recorder, and I recorded Portland Wrestling off TV. This is from September of 1972, and this is Dutch Savage.
This man is totally insane. He should be driven from the Northwest. Completely exonerated. Get him out of here, and along with that, his little stooge, Tony Bourne. Look, I don't condone this kind of action. I wouldn't have got in there if Sabu wasn't hurt. He had that boy hurt, and he tried to cripple a guy. He even banged the referee. He should be fined. Let me ask you something, people. I don't care what Don Owens has for a main event here next Saturday. Tony, you bring that idiot of yours down here. I won't run from him. You won't find me cowering in a corner away from him. You bring him in here. Bull Ramus is on the lam right now. He won't show up. He's got 20 days. You bring the Skull down here Saturday, and by golly, you and the Skull both be backing out of here. I mean it, Frank. I've had it. I've had the bit with him.
That's awesome.
And with this interview, it went on. The Skull and Tony Bourne came up and beat the crap out of Dutch Savage, and he was all bleeding and everything.
That's great. What about Rose Piper from 1979?
Well, this was one of the great feuds, like I said, and Buddy Rose is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and his wife is going to be there to accept his induction trophy. And this goes back to 1979 when Buddy and Piper was trying to get Buddy to do a hair match, and this goes from there.
Ready, Piper? You're the reason for this loss. You tried to stick your nose in the way. You know what? I'm not so mad about this, but I heard a comment that you want me to shave my head. There's no way on God's green earth that I'm putting thousands of dollars worth of work on the line in a coal miner's match with you, Piper. This is my hair.
Here comes Piper.
People have been phoning. Don Owens for you to put that ugly scalp up for when I beat you so you can be humiliated in front of the whole rest.
Don, you're here with us, Don.
Frankly, these guys have been going out like this for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm pretty sick of it myself, and I think this is a pretty good suggestion to have this glove coal miners match here next Tuesday night and settle it once for all. But Piper insists that if he beats him, Buddy Rose out there, that he should have his head shaved, and I kind of like to see what he looked like with his head shaved too. If he doesn't agree to it, that's his privilege, but there's about 6 or 8 guys in the dressing room that I'm sure will help Piper do the job on him.
That's so good.
And that comes from some of the restored footage that I got from Buddy Rose.
That's great. Well, this last audio bite comes from someone near and dear to my heart, the great Don Koss.
Yes. Don had a huge job, huge shoes to fill when the original Portland Wrestling announcer Frank Bottoма passed away of a heart attack in October of 1982. Don would fill in for Frank when he had to take some time off, but Don did a very good job filling, once again, huge shoes of Frank Bottoma.
From the Portland Sports Arena, it's Portland Wrestling. Brought to you in part by Tom Peterson's, with 2 great stores to serve you at 82nd and Foster Road. Hello, everybody. I'm Don Koss, your host for Portland Wrestling. Tonight, a wild crowd for some wild action. We are going to have the Battling Midgets for you. We're going to have a stretcher match. You know what a stretcher match is? Neither do I. We're going to find out all together. It's going to be Billy Jack Haynes and Rip Oliver. And as I understand it, the loser has to be carried out of here on the carry-out stretcher. And then we're going to have a tag team match. Mike Miller has returned. He's going to team up with Bobby Jaggers, and they're going to go against Tommy Zink and Scott Doring. We've got a lot of action for you. We've got a lot of news. We've got interviews and everything right after this. Don't go away.
Yep, the great Don Koss.
That's so good. And I loved it, too, when he's reading the ads before they had their built-in billboards on the broadcast.
Absolutely. Yep. And he'll be honored into the Hall of Fame. Now, one thing I should probably promote is the tickets to this. The entire event, the Portland Wrestling Expo, starts at 10 o'clock on the morning of Saturday, February 21st at the Airport Holiday Inn. And then the Hall of Fame dinner, it's a dinner and the induction ceremony. That is something different. That starts later off in the day. And if people want to get tickets to the Hall of Fame dinner, I'm told they need to buy their tickets by February 9th, just because the hotel needs to get a head count on how many people need to feed there. And those tickets can be purchased at pwexpo.com. And also the tickets for the regular gathering that starts at 10 o'clock before this, those tickets can be purchased there as well. And I'm going to be there selling all this footage I have, which is about 600 hours now.
600 hours?
About 600 hours of Portland wrestling footage that goes from 1977 through 91. I have that on external hard drive, and I will sell that. I will say that those tapes I talked about from Buddy, the old Quasar ones, those cost me about $2,000 to replenish and restore and everything, and then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours for the other stuff. But I'll be there, and in the booth with me will be Tammy Pershman, who is Buddy Rose's widow, and also Top Gun. If people remember Top Gun, he also went by the Assassin and Destroyer. He'll be there in my booth with me. I think he'll be having some merchandise. But lots of wrestlers from the past, Rip Rogers, Joey Jackson, Grappler will be there. Ken Patera, who was in the WWF, he's from Portland but never wrestled here. He'll be there. Paul Ellering, Precious Paul Ellering, who was the manager of the Road Warriors, he'll be there. He wrestled 1 week in Portland in 1982, and he got hurt. And so then he went away. Also some guys from the WWF days. Remember the Godfather, Papa Shango?
Yes.
He's going to be there. And some other surprises. So it's going to be, Joe V, by the way, is going to be there. He'll be emceeing the Hall of Fame.
And Joe V loves Portland wrestling, too.
Oh, he loves Portland wrestling. So beginning at 10 o'clock in the morning, you can be there all day, and then the Hall of Fame, that's a different ticket. But once again, pwexpo.com is where you can get the tickets for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Portland wrestling is finally getting its due. And so many people got their start here. People who don't even know wrestling or follow wrestling, they know the names like Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, Jesse Ventura, who else? Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He was here. He went by Dizzy Hogan and claimed to be Hulk Hogan's brother. And so Sergeant Slaughter wrestled here as Bob Remus, his real name. All these guys got their start in Portland, and many other people who aren't wrestling fans may not know the name, but wrestling fans would.
It's a great launching pad.
It was a huge launching pad, and once again, it was just this little territory up here that people didn't know about, but I'm very proud to be able to restore all of the stuff you and I were talking off the air. I never had any idea watching Portland wrestling as a kid that I'd be the one fortunate enough, lucky enough to create an entire library, because Don Owen did not record his shows every week.
Yeah.
He reused the tapes every week, so there was not a library.
You are living your dream. You grew up listening to Bill Schonely, became great friends with him, and some of your early recordings on cassette tape are part of the Blazers archive now.
Yep.
And then now with Portland Wrestling, you went on to become friends with the guys you grew up watching and loving.
And be able to give them footage of the work they did, and being able to supply this for fans, not just in Portland, but around the world who are wrestling fans and are learning about Portland wrestling thanks to this this footage. And if anybody is interested in the external hard drive, they can email me at portlandwrestlingvideo@yahoo.com.
All right, so pwexpo.com. pwexpo.com is where you go to get your tickets for the event. The expo is going to be in the morning, starting, you said, around 9?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn Portland Airport, and you can also purchase tickets for the Hall of Fame dinner, which is going to be later on in the evening by February 9th at pwexpo.com, so you can be a part of that. And I'm very happy that Don Coss is going to be inducted into the Hall. That's awesome.
It's going to be nice. And there are little cards here that if anybody wants to come by, and I brought some of the cards here that the people who promote this, Captain's Corner, they can come and pick up some of these. And also, I have a Portland Wrestling site on Facebook, fans of Portland Wrestling on Facebook. So
all right, and you got
join.
your Portland Buckaroo shirt on right now.
I am Portland, old time Portland stuff all over the place.
All right, the Captain Rich Patterson. I really appreciate you coming by. That was fun.
And that was fun. I love talking Portland wrestling.
All right, pwexpo.com is the website to get your tickets. The Hall of Fame dinner and expo at the Holiday Inn Portland Airport on February 21st. Go to pwexpo.com. The Captain Rich Patterson. When we come back, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, Sean Hyken, will join me for the latest on the Blazers ahead of the trade deadline coming up on Thursday here on the Rip City Drive. All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 5 o'clock. The Trailblazers are back in action tonight. They'll take on the Phoenix Suns. It's game 2 of a 5-game homestand. Denny Avdia is out with the sore back. Scoot Henderson is out but is expected to make his season debut this week. And the newest Blazer acquired from Atlanta Sunday, Vic Krejci, is expected to make his debut tonight. Drew Holiday questionable. Portland looking to snap a 5-game slide. Trade deadline's Thursday. Make sure to tune into the Rip City Drive at 3 for a full breakdown. Chris Burkhart will join me in studio at 3, and then our Trailblazer insider Sean Highkin in studio at 4. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up in just a couple of minutes. Your chance to see the Blazers and Grizzlies here at Moda Center. You just have to listen to me for your chance to win. The Jazz have acquired Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies, and Anthony Simons is on his way to Chicago. The Celtics sent Ant and a second-round pick to the Bulls in exchange for Nikola Vucevic. More of the Rip City Drive coming at you right now. All right, Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, is with me. What's up, brother?
How you doing?
I'm great, man. Good to see you. I'm excited about tonight from the standpoint that we get a chance to see a new Blazer in Vic Krejci.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, we'll ask Tiago in about an hour, but as far as I know, he's available to play tonight.
That's great. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that deal. What do you think about the move to send Duop Reef to the Hawks for a couple of future second-round picks in exchange for a guy that can shoot the three?
Well, obviously it was a bummer for Wop that he's out for the season with that broken foot. Being totally honest here, if you just kind of read the tea leaves, they're going to have to figure something out as far as like the open roster spots for the two-way guys, and so he was probably the most likely to be one of the guys that gets squeezed out anyway. But it still just is too bad for him that it's not like he gets to go somewhere and be able to play, ahead of being, a free agent this summer. But from the Blazers' standpoint, I mean, this is a pretty simple deal to me. They're the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA, and they just traded for a 6'8" guy who's a career 40% three-point shooter. That seems pretty logical to me.
All right, more from Sean in just a moment. We got to give away a pair of tickets for Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, so I'm going to keep this simple. I want to use the text line. So in order for you to win, you have to text to 88528, 88528, and it's a very simple question. The newest Trailblazer, Vic Krejci, who's coming over from the Hawks, the first person with the correct answer to text to 88528, his current three-point shooting percentage for the season. I just need a whole number. I don't need the dot, whatever it is. Just give me the current whole number. Vic Krejci's current three-point shooting percentage in the NBA. The first person with the correct answer to 88528 gets a pair of tickets for the Blazers and Grizzlies. Text right now to 88528. First person with the correct answer, the current three-point shooting percentage for Vic Krejci at 88528. Fire away. First person correct answer gets a pair of tickets for the Blazers and Grizzlies. Denny Avdia, another night off tonight as he continues to rest the sore back. This is nothing serious, right? Like, they're just trying to get him back in a position to where he's 100%.
That's what everybody's saying. Denny seemed to think he's not seriously injured. Honestly, to me, I mean, I was because of my travel stuff, I wasn't at the game in D.C., but I was at the game in New York, and just being honest, Denny looked terrible in that game.
Yes.
And, I understand why he wanted to play in those two games. He wanted to play in D.C. because that was where he was drafted, and he still has a lot of fans there. He wanted to play in New York because there has, all the Jewish supporters there always in New York. But he probably shouldn't have played in either of those two games, considering how he looked in those two games. And I think I was honestly shocked going into the game against the Cavs on Sunday night that he was even listed as questionable before they ended up ruling him out. So I don't think it would be the worst idea. And again, I'm not a doctor. I am not on the Blazers medical staff. This is above my pay grade. I don't think it would be the worst idea in the world to just give him until the All-Star break off and just make, because here's the thing. He's been so good this year and so important this year. If they're really going to seriously give this play-in, playoffs, postseason thing a shot down the stretch, whatever it is, they need as close to the version of Denny Avdia that he's been until about a week ago as possible. And if he's out there, if he's, obviously, he's a tough guy. He wants to play in every game. We know that. If he decides he wants to play, and he's out there looking like he looked in the last 2 games, that's actively hurting the team. So I think it would be better to just give him this little time off in the short term, and then after the All-Star break, hopefully, he's got a couple weeks off, can get the back, at least, not be on it as much. And then, for the rest of the season, as they, really try to chase these play-in seeds, then, that's how I would do it. But that might take some convincing from some people.
Yeah, no question about that. Now, Drew Holiday did not play on Sunday. He's been out with personal reasons. Do you expect him back tonight?
I have not been told no, so I would expect he'll play, yeah.
Now, some fans are concerned that he's been out because they're getting ready to trade him. What's your response to that?
He's out for personal reasons. I don't know exactly what the personal reasons are. That's his business if he wants to share that with people, but he's out with personal reasons. Put it this way, there have been times where teams hold guys out because they're about to trade them. It would be really easy with Drew to say, calf injury management because he just missed 2 months with that calf injury. If they wanted to say it's injury management and that's why they were holding him out of this game, that's what they would do in that circumstance. He legitimately was out with personal reasons. He was not in the building the other night.
Yeah.
So no, it's not trade related. No.
Okay, that's good. I knew that was the answer, but I need you to say it because people are tripping right now.
Well, I mean, it's this time of year, and we all remember. Chad, do you remember what was this 3-4 years ago that Josh Hart gets pulled off the floor during warm-ups 5 minutes before the game against the Warriors tips off because they had just agreed to trade him to the Knicks, and everybody was wondering what was going on. This is just kind of that time of year. So I understand why people think, every time somebody misses a game that, it's because they're about to trade them. But nah, Drew missed the last game for personal reasons, and as far as I know, he's going to be able to play tonight.
That's awesome. We got our winner. Of course, you know this, but Vic Krejci currently shooting the 3 ball at 42, just over 42%, which is an elite number in the NBA. And that's what I'm excited about seeing him on the floor because this team, the part I can't get out of my mind, among the leaders in the league for 3-point attempts, but dead last in percentage makes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they are the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. By the way, there's some breaking news.
What do we got?
Not Blazers related, but the Los Angeles, this is from Shams, the Los Angeles Clippers are trading James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick.
Wow.
So that's kind of started being rumored over the last 24 hours or so, but that's, according to Shams, that's done.
Okay.
That literally just came in.
Why are teams still under this delusion that James Harden's going to make them better?
I don't know what the thinking is there from the Cavs. I understand it, from James Harden's standpoint, he wants another contract extension. The Clippers don't really want to give it to him, and so he's like, okay, get me somewhere else. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that one. Guess we'll find out.
All right. What do you make of the interest? Now, there's been a lot of rumors that the Blazers are actively pursuing a potential deal for Giannis. Wouldn't you say that every NBA team has interest in Giannis, at least at some level?
Yeah. I mean, I think if the Blazers really wanted to, they could put together an offer for Giannis that would beat most other teams' offers because they have the Bucks' future draft picks that the Bucks would want back if they were to try to rebuild, which you would think they would want to do if they were trading Giannis.
Yeah.
So they could if they wanted to. But I think they would have to figure out, does Giannis want to be here long term? And we know, he has a relationship with Drew Holiday. He has a relationship with Dame because he's played with both of them. Would that be enough for him to want to stay here long term? If he does want to stay here long term and wants to sign an extension, he's eligible in the summer, if he gets traded by the deadline, for a 4-year, $275 million extension. Do you want to give that much money to a guy who's in his mid to late 30s, who's had as many calf injuries as he's had, even though it's Giannis, and he's still going to be Giannis probably at least for the next couple of years? Do the Blazers have the kind of personnel to put around Giannis where, think about that Bucks team that won the title in 2021. They had shooters pretty much at every position. Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Drew Holiday when he was much younger, Dante DiVincenzo. We just talked about the Blazers, how great this trade for Vit Krejci is, like a kind of middle-of-the-rotation guard because they're the worst three-point shooting team in the league. Is that really the best situation to maximize what Giannis can bring, especially as he kind of gets out of his prime? And this team, if you put Giannis on this team, is this team a title contender? Is
No.
this team as good as Oklahoma City or San Antonio if you just drop Giannis onto this team? I don't think so. So I don't know. I think if all you're from the Blazers end with all those factors, if all you're giving up is matching salary and the Bucks their own picks back, and even if it ends up being a rental, to me that's worthwhile swing. But if you're getting into like giving up, some of their own like core young guys or their own draft picks far out, because then if it doesn't work out, they'll be in the exact same position the Bucks are in right now, where they have no picks and they have no future. I would say it's very, like, if you're a Blazer fan, it's cool that they're at least being talked about and people are kind of taking it seriously, that, yeah, this is a team that could trade, because teams like the Blazers usually don't get in trade rumors for guys like that. So it's, I guess from a fan standpoint, it seems like it's probably cool to at least have that be in the conversation, but I don't think it's a high likelihood that anything like that actually happens.
Well, for me personally, that's where I would draw the line. Because of Giannis and his age and the calf history, if you want to give up the picks and matching salary, fine. But I'm not going to sacrifice multiple pieces of my young core for an aging superstar. That's, like, I'm not going to do that.
We also just saw Dame and Giannis not really work that well together in Milwaukee.
And
now
that.
Dame is going to be 2 years older coming off a torn Achilles. Like,
yeah.
Obviously, it's Giannis, so you kick the tires on it, and if the price isn't that high, then obviously you do it, but the price is going to be pretty high, and the price should be high if you're Milwaukee, because they're kind of in the same position that Joe Cronin was in 2 years ago when he had to trade Damian Lillard. Like, you can say all you want, yeah, he wants to go here, we're going to try to help get him to where he wants to go. If John Horst, the GM of the Bucks, doesn't nail this trade, his career's probably over. And that's kind of the position that Joe was in, and Joe did a great job handling that when he had to trade Dame, and that was like the biggest moment of his career, and he did a great job handling that.
And he got Dame back.
And he ended up getting Dame back a couple years later, but that's the position that John Horst is in right now. So he isn't going to just say, oh yeah, we'll sell low on Giannis right now because it seems like he doesn't want to re-sign. Like, if he does that, then he's probably done.
I was told last night, or I was talking with someone that is pretty well connected that I respect. He thinks it's 50-50. He would lean towards the summertime when something gets done with Giannis.
That's where I've been at the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, if you're the Bucks, unless you get absolutely blown away by an offer, which none of the teams that are rumored to, be the ones that Giannis wants to go to, like, New York, Miami, Golden State, Minnesota, none of those teams really have anything they can offer right now that would be like, we have to do this right now, that's not going to still be there at the deadline.
He did say his thoughts were that New York and Miami would be the two most likely destinations, which is not a surprise.
We'll see.
But he also said something that was interesting. He said that based on the agency he had talked to, like, Giannis is in the very similar boat that Dame is in. He doesn't want to leave Milwaukee, but he knows that he has to be able to compete.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't want to be stuck in a situation like Dame was, where you end up somewhere and you're unhappy.
You end up somewhere and you're unhappy. They traded all their stuff to get you, so they don't have any other ways to improve the roster, and it's just it's not a good situation.
Yeah, he said it's we've all faced that situation, and you've done it before too, Sean, where you're looking at the pros and cons, and on paper it looks like the right decision, but then when you make the move, you end up regretting it.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's tough.
That's exactly where they at. And if you're Joe Cronin, let it get as messy as possible. Let the Bucks be as over a barrel as they can be. Whether the Blazers involve themselves in the trade as a facilitating team or not, they don't have to do that. They could very easily just say, yeah, okay, Bucks, have fun trading Giannis and being bad afterwards and not having your picks. We'll just collect those picks.
The one thing I do like about Portland's situation right now is they've got assets to work with, but they're under the luxury tax. Like, if they do nothing, that's fine.
They're not going to do nothing because they have to clear 2 roster spots somehow to make room for Caleb Love and City Sissoko.
Do you think they make room for both?
I think they have to. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
we'll see how that happens, but I think they need to do that.
But aside from that, there's no pressure to have to do something outside of that.
I don't think
and that's
so,
a good place to be.
Yeah, they're all right.
Okay. That's Sean Hyken. Read him at rosegardenreport.com. I appreciate your time, brother.
Yes, sir.
Brooke Olzendam is standing by. She's going to join us next and talk about Brooke Heart Your Heart. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, I told you I was a lucky man because I get Brooke Olzendam not once but twice on the show. And I called her yesterday before she came on. I said, you know what, you've been double booked because we've been working with two different individuals. I said, if you don't mind, can I get you both days? You're like, no problem. So that's how kind Brooke is. And I want to show you a picture. It's too inappropriate to show publicly, but you appreciate Larry Bird the way I do. And your dad does as well. So as you know, my brother passed away because of cancer last month. And so a buddy of mine sent me something in the mail, and he wrote a nice little note and said, hey, you know, because he recently lost his brother. And he goes, I know what you're going through right now. My heart goes out to you. And he goes, you know what? Screw cancer. It's evil. It's awful. And I hate what it does to people. And he goes, I sent you a little gift to kind of send a message to cancer. And that's what he sent me.
Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
Isn't that great?
That's fantastic.
Larry Legend with his 33 Celtics jersey on, just standing there with the double barrel.
I love it.
That's the message to cancer. Isn't that great?
His face is like, yeah, and what? What else you got?
So
that is fantastic.
You were one of the first people I thought about when he sent the shirt to me. I'm excited for you because you get a chance to do a one-on-one with Vic Krejci, the newest Trailblazer, who's going to play tonight, coming over from the Hawks in the deal on Sunday, shooting the three ball at over 42%. I've never met him, and I know you've heard the same thing I have, but I think the Blazers are getting another quality individual to step into the locker room, so I'm excited about your conversation.
I can't wait. Yeah, it's right after Coach tonight, so I've been preparing for it. And I like to keep these kind of like more general, like how's the last 48 hours been for you? Because I'm always so curious about that. Like, what's that like?
It's got to be chaos,
it's
right?
It's got to be chaos, and you got to get to the team. You got to pass the physical. You're meeting these guys and meeting the coaching staff, and when you go to the practice facility, there's a lot of people that work there. It's got to be overwhelming, not in a bad way, but just there's a lot going on. And then you have to kind of quickly figure out, how the offense runs, how your teammates like to play. So there's so much that goes into it. So I'm always so curious. So that's what I'm going to ask him about. And then, of course, what he knew of this team coming in and how he thinks he can contribute. As you mentioned, great shooter. Tiago said that the other day, that we've been thirsty for a shooter,
yes,
a shooter like him. But also, I wanted to add, I've been hearing from people all over the league that have worked with him, coaches, some player development guys. They said he's just a dream. He's wonderful, nicest guy. And that's the first thing I say was, is he a nice guy? They're like, oh, the best. You're going to love him. I mean, not only is he a great player, but he's a locker room guy and just really a positive person, which, I love. So I'm excited to talk with him one-on-one, and we're going to do that shortly. So I'm pumped.
That's great. And you've been around the Blazers for a long time now, and this is nothing against teams of the past, but I do think, and I've talked to people around the team, like this locker room, this group of guys from last year into this year, like in terms of connection and connectivity in the locker room and the way guys get along, this is a special group, is it not?
Oh my gosh, yes, I can attest, and I'm being completely honest, where they all root for each other. Like the other day, as I was speaking with Denny after he got the All-Star nod, and I had to just pull it out of him. Talk about yourself for a little bit. I know, because they just want to give them the credit to their teammates, and they mean it. It's not coming from a place that it's not genuine. It's completely genuine. They love each other. That picture is burned in my brain. And, of course, we love Dwap Reith, and we're sad to see him go, but we will be fans of Dwap forever. But that picture of he and Denny on the bench with his arms around him, watching from the bench, I will forever, that's in my brain forever. But that's just how they feel about each other. When someone gets an accolade, they're all very excited for them. When someone has a great game, maybe, Roops comes out and has, 12. I think that was on the last road trip. I mean, you would have thought he won MVP of the league. They're so excited for him. So it's wonderful just to see. There's no animosity whatsoever. They're all rooting for each other. And so it makes a dream for me to cover a team like that, because they're all happy to be there. They're all supportive of one another. And it's fun when there's like a walk-off interview. There's always half the team goes by, nice job, Turbo, or as we're doing our walk-up, they're all very supportive, and it's a great locker room. I
want to play some audio for you. We were talking about Denny Avdia yesterday, and you were talking about how he's what would you say, humble? Is that a pretty good way to describe him?
I would say that's the number one word I would use.
Okay, so we're going to do a little example of what Brooke was just talking about. Here's Denny, and you may have been there. It was in the locker room after the game on Sunday where he was finally getting a chance to talk about being an NBA All-Star, right? Mm-hmm. Well, take a listen, because he hits on all the keynotes that you do. He does not like to talk about himself, but you can tell that it's the honor means a lot to him. Here is Denny Avdia.
I think I was so focused on the game that I even when they showed film and stuff, it was right when they announced it. I was just focused on the game, but obviously I think it was sinking tonight more than anything, because I was really focused on the team and the game versus Cleveland. And That's about it.
So you were watching film of Cleveland when you heard the announcement as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I did. And I didn't really, I heard my phone buzzing at the back. So I said maybe it's buzzing because, I didn't get selected and people are like, oh, then never mind, you're good next year, whatever. Or I got selected. But other than that, I had no idea.
Did you think there was a chance you wouldn't get selected?
I think there's this great players that didn't get chosen for the All-Star game, and obviously there's a lot of talent in this league that could have been instead of me. But I worked hard, I play hard. I don't want to say I deserve it, but I do respect me and my game, and I'm really happy that I'm able to be an All-Star.
Have you let yourself enjoy it yet?
I don't know. I think it just the mindset of you being in it is just enjoy, and it's just fun. But I have a lot of other things I think about. You know what I'm saying? It's just how to win games, how to because we're struggling a little bit right now as a team. So I'm thinking more about the team right now than actually the All-Star. I feel like the closer it's gonna get, the more I'm gonna think about it. But for now, I'm really trying to stay with my teammates.
Do you see how often you deferred right there?
Yes.
Everything you said.
I was just giggling through the whole thing. I'm not surprised by any of it, by the way. And I will say, when I was watching the video of him with the whole team celebrating, and I was like, thank goodness. Obviously, I wanted him to be an All-Star, and I thought he was going to. I really did. But could you imagine that locker room if it hadn't been named an All-Star? I was like, thank goodness, because that was a moment I needed to see. I would have been devastated for him. Again, he would have just talked about the game and said, I'm fine. He would have said, it's no big deal. We just need to win games. I'm okay with it. But I was so glad that moment happened with all his teammates that, of course, so supportive of him, and the coaching staff. That was just so special. And he's right, though. I bet it might not have really settled in yet, because he is such a competitor and obviously wants to get this team in the winning column. So I'm not surprised if it hasn't settled in yet, because he really is a team first guy.
Yeah. And I know he's been dealing a lot with his back, but he doesn't go out of his way to show it, right?
No.
It's very impressive.
No, I mean, I will ask him about when he heard it and he came back, and it was post game, and I asked him about it, or it was his hand when his hand went numb. Asked him about that, and he's like, "Oh, it'll be fine. I'm fine." I'm like, "Well, did it affect you?" And then he quickly said, "I just really need to figure out what's going on, because I need to be able to help my team." And so he just wants to be the best version of himself, so that the team can be the best version of themselves.
I wanted to ask you about, speaking of the togetherness of this group, Travis. I think this was New Year's Eve. You guys were in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
He said that there was a team function. Everyone was invited. And he said every single person showed up and participated in the games and the singing, and he said in that moment he realized how close the entire group was.
So let's be real. It's New Year's Eve. I know Oklahoma City. I don't know how much is going on in Oklahoma City, but nothing to take away from. But I was thinking, if they have friends in town or family, or if there's something really fun happening, I wasn't expecting the entire team to come. I was like, that'll be fun if a lot of them get together. Not a single one didn't come. And they participated in everything from cornhole, which I talked about this on the show. Drew Holiday and Donovan were a team, and you would have thought it was the Olympics. I mean, they were so intense.
Who won?
Actually, they didn't win. It was our staff won, and so they were so mad. They still think there was cheating involved. But to watch, and everyone surrounding watching it, cheering on. And it was just beautiful. I remember looking around thinking the same thing, this is not normal. I mean, it should be, but it's not, where everyone wants to be together on this evening when they could be out doing whatever they wanted. But the whole team came. Shout out Beth Hancock. She put it together, and it was awesome. It looked like out of a movie. It was like one of those really cool events where it was just awesome.
Trav told me that Javante Cook's personality came out. He's putting on a show.
He's great. He's always a very positive guy too. He's easy to root for as well. Yeah, he was out there. The whole team. This is my favorite story. So I first started out with Casey Holdall as my partner, because we both aren't very good at cornhole, so we didn't want to take anyone else down that was really good at it. And so we were playing. We got knocked out, whatever. And then I got picked up by Sean, who was at one of our PTs. Like, will you be my partner moving forward? So I was like, well, I'm out. So yeah. So then we ended up playing Matisse and Dwap, and we were down. They were like 3 away from winning, and I don't think we had a point, or something like that. I'm not kidding. I'm not even good at cornhole, so this is not me bragging. But
You went on a heater?
I got 4 in a row, all 4.
All right.
Three. And as I kept doing it, then Dwop would go, and Matisse is like, Dwop, you're not, are you even trying? Like, like they was that into it. And as soon as I got my last one, which was the winning one, I start celebrating. Look, Matisse is gone. He's like, I'm going out of here. And I'm like, where'd he go? They're like, he's out of here. I'm like, no way. I didn't want him to leave. I would have thrown the game. But he was just competitive. And that's how they are on the floor. That's how they are at cornhole on New Year's Eve. But we've been talking about that night ever since. Like, that is the true representation of what a team should be, what you want a team to be. Just everyone wanted to be together on that night.
That's so cool. We're talking with Brooke Olzendam, and she has just launched, along with the Trailblazers, another year for her foundation, Brooke, Heart Your Heart. You've raised over $154,000. We'll get to that in just a moment because I know you got new totals.
Yeah.
But we didn't touch on this too much yesterday. Your efforts and your desire with your foundation are born out of personal tragedy. You were married, and then your 27-year-old husband, who was a great athlete, 10 days later was working out and died because he had issues with his heart that he was unaware of. So kind of walk us through that for the people who don't know. You get married, and then you find out that he's got this major issue, and that's what has really driven you forward moving into the future. So take us back to that time.
Well, we didn't know the issue until he had passed because it did not run in his family.
So you had no idea?
No idea. We had no idea. I mean, he was quarterback in college, had gone to Oregon, then transferred to Occidental, where he was Offensive Player of the Year every year, the 3 years that he was there, just a legend. And then really wanted to make it in the NFL, so played some arena football for a while in Stockton. That's actually worked out because I was living in LA when we met, and so I would drive to Stockton to watch his games. And so there was no inkling. I mean, you never think anything of it until you look back, and then you start kind of thinking of, wait a second, that stands out a little bit to me now. At the time it didn't, and I mentioned this to you before, that the cardio, the running, all that stuff was almost 10 times as more difficult for him as it would be an average person because he had a carotid artery, so the blood was not flowing to his heart the way it should have. And so he was exerting 10 times more energy than he should have had to. And because of that, obviously his poor heart couldn't take that. It was working extra hard. So he was on the treadmill when it happened, and so I was taking a new job, and everyone that I was going to work with was in the lobby, and we were going to go to dinner. And so I was waiting for him, and he wasn't. He was always on time, and I had a sinking feeling that something wasn't right. And then I heard sirens, and then someone explained it to me, and went to the hospital, and he passed at the hospital. And so then, we're all in shock and devastated, and you come to find out, later after tests were done, that's what it was. And so I've told the story to people, like, just make sure to listen to your body, listen to if others are having a more difficult time than you think they should doing cardio or anything.
There could be
like
something
that.
there.
There could be something there. My friend from college, I told you the short version of this yesterday, but my friend from college showed the video that with Lamar and I did our first year, where I'm talking about the story and exactly this. And her sister owned a fitness studio, and she was that was very fitness forward, in great shape. But she thought, my sister, I kind of feel like when we work out, because she's a big gym rat too, that when we work out, like, she does seem like she gets really tired, and she shouldn't. She's in wonderful shape. This is what she does for a living. So she called her sister and said, I'm sending you something. Just look at it. So she sent her the interview, and her sister looked at it and said, you know what, you might have something here, and went and got her heart checked, and she had to have emergency heart surgery that week. And so that's like the story I think of, that that's the biggest one. I mean, they're all very important, but
that was a life-saving,
yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. So really, the whole idea is hey, if you think something's wrong, get checked, because had your husband been aware, he could have gotten checked, and they could have made changes to get him on the right track before tragedy takes place.
Absolutely. Or, it's hard to think what if, but yes, what if. And so I just want to get ahead of it, and now for others, and just so if you're putting yourself in that position, and if you're thinking it could be you or someone else, it doesn't hurt to, make a move, schedule an appointment. If I could go back and know what I know now, we probably would have done that. So I hope that someone else can, maybe make a change or go get checked, and something positive comes from it.
How nice is it to hear stories of people who have gone and gotten checked over the time that you've been doing this?
It's incredible. I love it. People come to me and tell me all the time, explain their story, and sometimes the stories are great, and then someone survived a heart attack and then made life changes and now is living their best, healthiest life. I love those stories. But there's also some tragic stories that people tell me where they lost their husband or they lost a friend, and I would like to hear those stories too, because I can relate to that. So the stories that you hear really kind of keep me going through this month, because it's a positive month with what we're doing, but it does take me back to that time, and so it's positive, and it's still tragic. So those stories really help me get through it.
All right, I'm on your page right now, and you guys can do that out there if you're listening. Just go to trailblazers.com/heart, and it brings up the Brooke Heart Your Heart homepage, and you've got a goal this year of 15,000. And right now, we're just underway, but we're almost at the $2,000 mark. How awesome is that?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, I find myself just checking it over and over again, and I'm in disbelief every time I see someone else has donated. So I'm really so grateful to everyone who's considering doing it. And I would like to throw in also, if we get to 5,000, the Trailblazers match that 5,000.
Which is perfect. Now, the good thing is, a simple way for people to participate is you can purchase one of the Brooke Heart Your Heart beanies, which is a soft gray this year, and we're looking at it right now while supplies last. You can get them online at trailblazers.com or at ripcityclothing.com, or if you're here in the arena, you can purchase them in the store too.
Yes.
And those are on sale tonight?
Yes, they are in the store. Rip City Clothing Company. You can buy them today if you're coming to the game tonight. And I felt bad at last game. I wasn't sure. I knew we were launching today, so I knew they would be in the store. A couple of people came up, "Wait, where's your beanies?" I'm like, I don't think they're in the store yet. They might be in the store yet. And so this one couple, really sweet couple, they're like, "Well, we got our steps in, and we've told everyone that they're not in the store yet." I'm like, "I'm really sorry." They walked around and checked every store. So my apologies for that the other night. But, yes, they're there now.
Well, what I like about the beanie is that the gray is nice because it can be worn by both men and women. And I love the beanies because I can pull them down over my ears a little bit, so if I'm out in the morning playing golf when it's still cool, I can keep my ears warm, which is nice.
I like it because there are many days, not non-game days, where I just really don't want to do much with the hair. I mean, truly, I'm like, I'm not curling the hair. I'm not doing that. It's an off day.
It looks better than bedhead.
It looks better, and it covers it. If you have it, it covers it.
Yes,
so, yes,
which is great. You can also go to trailblazers.com/heart, and you can donate to the American Heart Association straight from the page. And whether it's $5, $10, or more, every dollar counts as she continues to press towards her goal. And then we can help more people get tested and get checked out to make sure that any problems can be detected before it becomes a bigger issue.
Yes, and it's, every little bit, like you mentioned, $5, $10. I am so grateful for all of it. It matters. We've gotten some big donations. The past thing I told you last year, Nurkic gave $5,000, which I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Dude, Nurkic, I know stories from Nurkic who anonymously gives money to people during his time here in Oregon, which was terrific. And I know Blazers who have contributed to help kids get to games and stuff like that. There's so many guys that do so many great things. But the Trailblazers as a whole, an organization, they don't look for the credit, but they're one of the very best in the NBA for their work in the community, and they're the ones who empowered you and put you on this platform to do what you're doing right now.
I had no idea what I was doing, so I went at the time Krista Stout, and then who's really got me in touch with Annie, she is my rock, and then Gabby and Walt, everyone that's been involved. There's so many people, but I just went with this idea, and I don't know how to run a foundation. I don't know how to start one. I don't know how they work, and it was like overnight. They had a plan. They got in touch with the Heart Association. We made that connection, and they were very excited as well. And so it's something where I am so grateful to so many people. But yes, the Trailblazers, and that's why I said to you before, I feel comfortable with them as my partner, because I feel so supported by this team and this organization that's when I knew this is my trusted partner in this. I could go and just do something on my own, but I really wanted to partner with this organization that I love so much, because as you mentioned, and you're so right, they do so much with the community. I'm like, we will do it right if it's with the Trailblazers, and they've been absolutely incredible, amazing. Couldn't do it without them, and the fact that they matched that was their idea, not mine, obviously. But I was like, you got to be kidding me. So that's been huge, and to think of how much money they have raised just by matching it of that $154,000. Yeah, I'm forever grateful.
All right, go to the webpage, trailblazers.com/heart, and it will bring you right to the page. You can purchase the beanie. You can donate directly and support Brooke's cause as she continues to press towards her goal of $15,000 this year, which is awesome. Brooke, I appreciate your time, back-to-back days, and now you can get on with your day because you got a big interview coming up with Vic Krejci.
Yes, I cannot wait. I'm very excited about it. Yeah, what are you going to do tomorrow on your show without me? I mean,
I don't know, but I'm going to be lost.
I'm kidding.
And we also learned something, too. In this world, there are huggers like you and I, and there are people who don't like to be hugged. I saw it firsthand a few moments ago.
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry. You had to see that.
All right, Brooke Olzendam, she'll be on the no broadcast tonight for you, right?
No, we are. It's side by side.
So it's side-by-side with NBC and the Trailblazers Network, which is awesome. All right, enjoy your interview with Vit.
Thank you. I can't wait.
That's Brooke. We'll come back. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, my man Chris Burkhart is joining me now. He's got Blazer Game Day coming up at 6 o'clock. So the Clippers have dealt James Harden to the Cavs in exchange for Darius Garland. My question is very simple, and no disrespect to anyone, of course, but when are teams going to stop believing that James Harden is the solution to their problems? Like, I don't understand it, man. What are the Cavs doing? Are they trying to ruin their opportunity to go out and compete in the Eastern Conference?
I'd say the only good part is right now it just looks like it was a one-for-one player flip, which doesn't hurt him too much. But, I mean, when Garland's in his mid-20s and is a pretty good player by all accounts, and you got Harden, who is still good, don't get me wrong, but as I told you during the break, when you've played in Oklahoma City, you went to Houston, you went to Philly, you went to Brooklyn, and you went to L.A., now you're going to Cleveland. At some point, those teams aren't the problem. You're the problem. You got to figure that one out.
Well, one thing I do like, the Trailblazers appear to be sitting in a great spot right now. They don't have to make a move. They're going to remain opportunistic. But all of a sudden now, when you look at some of the assets they have, how valuable are those Bucks picks looking?
They're looking like some of the most valuable picks on the market right now. Very good to have. Keep in mind they are, two of them are pick swaps, so you're swapping your pick with the Bucks pick. But I still think if you look at 2 years down the road, if you don't have Giannis on the roster, then that pick's going to be pretty valuable. So yeah, they're in a really, really good spot. And I want to reiterate what you said, and we're going to talk about that on game day today. But the Blazers are in a spot where they don't have to do anything. I feel like Joe Cronin holds a lot of the cards to trade deadline, because how many teams are calling his office right now, not about getting a player or not about Giannis coming to Portland, but about, hey, we need you involved so that we can get Giannis. And at that point, you have leverage and you have those valuable picks. You don't need to make a move just to do it. You have the strong hand. You're good.
Well, I like the position they're in. Now, I've never once thought that they were, in a strong position or really trying to pursue Giannis. Here's my hesitation on that. Is at his age, like, I would do it if you just give him back some picks and you make the salary match, then I would be open to that. But I'm not giving up a bunch of pieces for my young core to bring Giannis in, plus sacrificing the picks at his age.
That's the thing here. And I've always talked about how people don't want to take a big swing sometimes. And if you landed Giannis, it would be a massive swing. But we are talking about a guy who still has his prime window open, Chad, but that calf strain has continued to flare up multiple times. The injuries start to be a thing. And is that something you're willing to part with a Shaedon Sharpe or more to go get, when I think Shaedon Sharpe and those guys have proven they're a good part of your core moving forward? I look at what Utah just did. Okay, Utah, granted, Jaren Jackson Jr. is not in the Giannis category, but he's a difference maker. We're talking Defensive Player of the Year, multi-time All-NBA defense. They didn't have to give up any of their core to do it. Yes, they traded picks, but they didn't have to give up any of their core. That's massive. I would have hoped that Joe Cronin's smart enough to do something similar.
So what do you anticipate the Blazers getting done between now and Thursday? You think they'll make room to convert both their two-way guys?
I think there's multiple things here. I think they're still going to try to get in on whatever happens with Giannis, whether that is to Portland or not. They're going to try to do that in a way that is lopsided, so that maybe it's a Jeremy Grant, an extra piece out to bring a one in that gives you one spot. And if they do not trade him, I wholeheartedly believe that within the next week, Matisse Thybulle will probably be released, because at that point, Chad, he hasn't played but 5 games this year. And I don't know if he's going to play the rest of the year. He's going to go into free agency, where I wholeheartedly do not believe he re-signs with Portland.
I agree.
So if you're the Blazers, what's more important? Keeping Matisse to have him play the last 15 games and into a possible play-in run, or cut him and find space for Caleb Love or Sidy Cissoko? I think the answer is finding love for Caleb Love or Sidy Cissoko.
Man, if they could jump in on that Giannis deal and pull in some like Mikal Bridges, I'd be down with that.
Oh, yeah. I'd absolutely be down, or getting Daniels from Minnesota if that's where Giannis ends up going. And I think that's the Blazers' smart play here, is to get one of those guys that can make a difference, get you off of some of these contracts. Like, I've been a Jeremy Grant defender. I like his game. I really liked him as a sixth man. But if you can go flip that and you get Mikal Bridges, like you said earlier about guys who play on both sides of the ball.
So good.
He plays on both sides of the ball, and that's the type of guy who can fit into the style of play this team is trying to build. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be Giannis. I will say this, as a lifelong Blazer fan growing up here, and you do it with, your Broncos and this team too, even if you don't get Giannis, the fact that Portland is even being thrown around in these rumors, the fact that there is actually a realistic chance it could happen, even though that chance is probably 1%, is kind of uncharted territory.
Yeah, it shows the work that Cronin and his staff have done to, restock the cupboard, right? They got tools to work with now that makes them a player.
Let Cronin cook.
All right, Chris Burkhart's coming up next. He's got Blazers game day and then tip-off. We're very thankful for the NBC 8 o'clock tip tonight. Blazers and Suns here from Moda Center. Game 2 of a 5-game homestand. Burkhart's got game day up next. You guys enjoy your evening. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow on the Rip City Drive at 3 o'clock. Hugh Millen, former Husky, NFL quarterback. He's down in Santa Clara. We'll talk ball with him at 3:20.